Hello, everyone. My name is Carissa Brewster. I am the staff writer for Whitman Partners, and welcome to the 2023 BIPOC Perioperative Leaders to Know Recognition Awards. Today we have with us Niki Sarpy, Interim Director of Surgical Services. Welcome, Niki.
Hello, good to see you, Carissa.
Thanks for joining us.
I started in the emergency room, and then I did that for quite a while. I was a director of the emergency services, and I like the fast pace. I like the change in environment with different patients, and surgical services provided the same for that. It's not the same monotony every day. You don't see the same patients. Unfortunately, you don't get to follow them through their processes, but I like the fast paced. And so my mom is a nurse, and she worked in surgery and labor and delivery, and I kind of followed in her footsteps, and she works in surgery as well. So I said, well, let me give that a try.
Yeah, the ER department's pretty stressful.
Especially the last couple of years, I'd imagine so. Yes. I have experienced it myself. I've also witnessed it amongst coworkers. So I guess I'll talk more of witnessing on other coworkers. I live in Houston full time when I'm not traveling, and it's a very diverse area. That's one of the reasons why I live here, because it is a melting pot. I have 2 daughters, and I wanted them to grow up in a very diverse city. There's lots of opportunities, and there's many different cultures, and you learn a lot from other people and other cultures. Not everyone looks like us, thinks like us. I'm from a small area in the South. I'm from Louisiana, so I've witnessed discrimination firsthand. But in Houston, we're more of a fit. I like the big city. I have 2 daughters, like I mentioned, so I like to see women in the workforce. I want to raise them as strong women. I consider myself a strong woman. I was raised by strong women. And I've seen women discriminated against at work. I've also seen people that have different, I'm sorry, Carissa, you're gonna have to edit this part. I'm trying to think of the right word. I'll just say don't have the values of everyone else, and don't have the lifestyle that people consider to be the norm, and them being discriminated against just because of their lifestyle. So I've seen that, particularly in nursing, in the hospital. And I think to overcome people's biases and stereotypes, you have to get to know them. You can't use your own values and what you think is right or wrong and judge someone by it. Yeah, I can compare it to some, like I just came from a small city in Virginia. I was there for 8 months, and coming from Houston, where diversity inclusion has been going on for years, to see this start up and is really impactful, because, I've been involved in diversity inclusion groups for years, and they're just getting started. And just to see the excitement for people that are included in those groups, that something like this is being started, it's very exciting, and it's heartwarming to see that. I remember when we first started, I worked for a large healthcare organization, and when we first started, they had like 1 group, and now it's like up to 11 groups. So because they're trying every couple years, they add 3 more, and so I was a part of the startup. And now to see it starting up in other cities, small cities catching up to the diversity inclusion, which is very important in the workforce, is it's very good. It's very enlightening. It's educating people on how to handle other cultures and members of diverse groups.
How you talked about the DEI initiatives in bigger metro areas that you're used to. They've been kind of working on that for a while, and then smaller facilities or smaller areas are kind of getting started. Like, what does a successful and impactful initiative look like to you?
I think it's including not just the people that are in that group, because there's different groups to DEI, but including not just including it to that particular diversity, but opening it to all. At first, when it first started, a lot of them they had like one particular group, but then it's open to everyone. You don't have to be a female, you don't have to be Hispanic, you don't have to be African American to join into the group, because a lot of it is education and people understanding where others come from.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually, because, some of it, a lot of it is about just educating other people, not necessarily. I mean, I think providing a space for people of color to commiserate is one thing, but I think with these D&I initiatives, is really about letting everyone in and educating people that just don't know.
Correct. And that is more impactful. Because like you said, you can network with people that look like you and have the same values and have the same goals and initiatives, but the education is a very big part of it. Because some people don't even realize their bias against other people. They're subconscious.
Exactly.
You're not going to get everything done in one day. You won't solve all the problems in one day. I know it's a cliche to say it, but it's true. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. I would say to keep yourself on target by, keeping an agenda or a calendar. And, there's certain things that you have to turn in. And, you develop an agenda or itinerary for every day to keep that straight. But, sometimes I write all the things I want to get down in one day and nothing on the list gets accomplished because, there's things to put out. There's chaos in the surgery room. You never know what to expect. Sometimes I'm a nurse as well, and I have to take care of patients too. But, and I enjoy being a nurse. I mean, that's why I originally got into this, because I was a nurse. But that would be my main thing. You won't get it all done. You will make mistakes. Hopefully you learn from your mistakes. And something that I do every day is, I review the day that I had, and I make a list on what emails I need to follow up on, or, if as I'm reading my emails, what person I may have to clarify something on, or whatever task that I have, to make sure that I understand what is asked of me, because everyone wants to do a good job, and sometimes taking care of patients, well, not sometimes, all the times, taking care of patients comes first. So sometimes when I'm in nerves, of course, I have to take care of patients before I can get to a report that's due next week. I have to handle one day at a time. My ideas on, or what I've done in the past with case cancellation, is building a robust PAT, which is the pre-admission testing program.
Yeah.
And the patients that you cannot get to come into PAT, because I've done a lot with gastroenterology. So what we did was the patients that we weren't able to come in to meet with the nurse and the nurse practitioner or the provider that's in PAT, is we would do a robust questionnaire, which is basically what's on the pre-admission, what's on the assessment, so that we have an idea, and also to make sure that the patient understands what the procedure is and what's their expectations, whether, it's I'm going to use colonoscopies as an example. Sometimes they don't understand. I had a patient a couple of weeks ago that wasn't able to come to PAT, didn't answer the phone when we would try to make the calls, and did the whole entire colon prep, but ate at the same time. So they didn't understand. I
Yeah.
mean, when you're dealing with different cognitive levels, just what you think is common sense to you because you're a healthcare provider, it's not for the layperson. So they follow their prep, but ate at the same time. So that's the importance of PA. That's someone that was canceled. But to avoid that, that's why discharge planning starts upon admission, even before admission. It starts with PAT. So to really have a program that goes through all the steps and answers all the questions and goes through what to expect before, during, and after surgery is a vital part of surgery. And for the patient and family to understand, because a lot of times even the discharge paperwork is given after a patient comes from anesthesia. They have no idea what was said because they had anesthesia. It was given to their family. Sometimes the family loses the paperwork or forgets it in the surgery department. So in my experience with PAT, their discharge instructions are given to them at the PAT appointment. So they're aware of what they have to do at each step of the process. And also having a follow-up call after to make sure, did you understand all your discharge plans? Do you have your follow-up appointment? Are there any questions I can ask? Is your pain under control? Those types of questions. Because a lot of times, especially with patient service and patient experience being so high on everybody's priority list, something that was a problem, you can correct at that time. In my experience, doctors, nurses, all healthcare workers are usually very competitive. So to make it as a game or make it fun, that's what I've used in the past with my teams, is we would have competitions for FCOTS. And, especially when I'm going to a facility because it's always a new experience, it's a different group, and you never know what their problems or their processes are. And what I've found is making it a game, making it fun, having it doesn't have to be a monetary type of award, candy bar. Sometimes they're happy to say that. Their picture being hung on the wall, as being this team, this anesthesia provider, this nurse, this OR tech, all their cases started, they were in their room before time or, before cut time. And seeing their name up for everyone to see, that usually does the trick, and people fall into pattern. They want their name up on the wall. They want their picture hanging. So just making it fun. It's still a job. We still have patients to take care of, but work can be fun. Well, a lot of surgical services has to do with processes and efficiency. So FCOTS is one of them. Cancellation rate, keeping that down. Also, surgical services works very closely with materials management, making sure the right contracts are in place, and to keep your cost per case down, so that it improves more operationally for the money, for the revenue at the end of the month, and ultimately at the end of the year. Also utilization of block times, making sure that those blocks are filled, or that you have the right procedures in that block time. Really keeping the metrics and watching the metrics for how long a doctor takes to do a procedure, plus the turnaround time and efficiency, because FCOTS, if you don't start the day on time, 15 minutes could end up 2 hours at the end of the day, and making sure that this was part of one of my FCOTS initiatives was surgeons getting into the room on time, coming to the hospital and seeing their patients on time. And that also has to do with the nurses too, the circulators and anesthesia also interviewing the patient in a timely manner. 7:30 start time doesn't mean that's the time the doctor goes in to see the patient. That's the time you should be in the room. That's cut time.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Niki.